talking about the horror comedy simply known as Dead. This one is directed by Hayden J. Will. And I guess you want to say this movie is like Patrick Swayze's Ghost if it were a stoner whodunit comedy. So what's the story? We have this kind of hapless young man called Marbles, and he has the ability to see ghosts, and he works as a conduit to grieving family members who wish to communicate with their dead relatives. However, he is approached by a policeman who is a ghost, who has been recently murdered and wants to kind of like catch this serial killer who has killed 6 other victims and himself. Now, Marbles is initially reluctant because obviously he's much more of a kind of an introvert type and doesn't really kind of want to get involved in anything dangerous. But he ends up kind of becoming friends with this ghostly police officer, and reluctantly kind of agrees to help him with his investigation, getting himself more into the case, finding out clues and, you know, chasing down this potential killer, and only to realise there may well be a connection to himself as well. Now, what will happen? You'll have to watch the movie to find out. So let's first of all talk about what works with Dead. Okay, so this is kind of a stoner comedy in a way. So the way that Marbles is able to communicate with ghosts is to take a mixture of like marijuana mixed with medicine that is used to treat terminally ill people. So he's kind of has to get essentially a little bit high to be able to do this. So therefore, hilarity ensues because of that. But I've got to say, and I'm not a big fan of stoner comedy, to be honest with you, but this one I did find quite funny because of the character of Marbles himself. Even though he is a, you know, one of life's losers, you might say, somewhat of a hapless individual who doesn't seem to have much going on really in his life, he was very endearing, and I actually kind of quite liked his character, the way his simplistic outlook on life and how things work, and his growing kind of relationship with this deceased police officer, you know, who initially kind of only wants to use him for his kind of like powers really, but eventually these two, you know, it goes into a kind of a buddy cop drama in a lot of ways. And I have to say, the character work was very, very good. And I enjoyed these two kind of central characters a lot. I thought they had a great rapport, great chemistry, and you felt that relationship grow throughout the movie. So that obviously these guys both had good character arcs. The movie as well, although I wouldn't say it's necessarily laugh out loud funny, it's pleasant. You kind of find yourself kind of chuckling along with it along the way, and that there are moments here, mainly kind of Marbles' reactions to things, which I found, you know, you've pretty much got a smile on your face throughout the movie, even though you might not be necessarily rolling around on the floor in stitches. Now, about kind of like 2/3 of the way through this movie, the movie does try and have somewhat of a kind of a reveal, and you know, the movie goes into a lot more of a drama with more kind of plot elements, injected into the film, which to me had mixed results, but at least it does seem to have a little bit more going on. There's also a couple of, the horror side of it is very light. The only real horror elements outside of the fact that we're dealing with ghosts here is that ghosts who have been left on their own for too long tend to kind of degrade and turn into more like, they're referred to as ghouls, and they look kind of more horrific, more kind of decomposed, and you know, a more zombie-like in a kind of lot of ways. The movie also has kind of somewhat of a possession element to it as well, but the horror elements are relatively light. It's not really ever scary. In fact, I'm very kind of, in a way, unwilling to call it a horror film in any way, because it really doesn't have any really horror elements, or no, that's going to make you scared, at least, outside of it being based on a kind of paranormal ghostly activities. Okay, what doesn't work? I feel some of the secondary characters are quite weak. Marbles ends up kind of having a relationship with the cop's sister, and I feel her character was a little bit weak sauce. She's the typical sort of female character that is introduced who takes no crap from any of the guys and all of this, and I don't know, her character just seemed very one-dimensional to me, and didn't really add much to the actual story itself. There are a couple of other kind of like smaller characters that I feel, again, they're just the same sort of thing. They just didn't really add a lot to it. They felt more one-dimensional, and obviously they don't have as much screen time, admittedly, as our kind of our major two characters. But they just seem to be ciphers. They don't really seem to have a lot going on. When we get to, as I say, maybe the third act of the film, and the movie kind of goes into more of a plot-driven element, I feel it kind of spins its wheels a little bit before that, admittedly. But I just don't know if maybe it went into somewhat convoluted territory, in my opinion. And I think some of the decisions that it's made story-wise weren't the strongest. I'm not going to go into spoilers here. But to me, there's some convoluted ideas that are put through this movie. And it's... Let me put it like this. One of the other criticisms I'll have is a lot of criticisms that aimed at Star Wars, where, you know, we're going to have this galaxy and everyone seems to kind of have a relationship with one another. Let me just say that without kind of spoiling anything. But it's a mildly diverting supernatural comedy that I feel is fairly gentle. You know, it's a gentle watch, it's an easy watch. It's quite likeable characters. Now that's, to me, is its major draw to me, was likeable characters played well by two good actors. The rest of it is kind of average, but I will give it a slightly above average score because of those two guys. So it's 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.